Hi, this is Alonzo Bodden. I want to welcome you to episode 296 of my podcast, Who's Paying Attention? I know you are. I am recording from a hotel room in San Diego where we are recording another one of the Saturday night music specials with Marcus Miller. If you haven't checked it out, I mean, these are amazing. SaturdayNightWithMarcusMiller.com. We recorded one with War, the band War, that just fantastic, kicks ass. So please check it out. And that's what I've been doing these days. And let's get into it. There's a lot. It's a lot. There's always a lot. Our news cycle is a lot. This is interesting though, because this hasn't happened before. The New York Times put out an op-ed that we must, quote, end our national crisis. They're talking about getting rid of Trump. The Times, as you know, has caught some heat for its op-eds. You know, they had Tom Cotton calling for Trump to bring in the military against Black Lives Matter. They've caught heat for that. The Times is good, but not great. Some of their headlines and above the fold stories have been kind of, not sure. Like they've tried too hard to be fair to both sides. I know that I know the right wing calls them fake news and all of that, but that's nonsense. But they have tried, I think, a little too hard. Well, I don't think they're trying anymore. Quote, Mr. Trump's ruinous tenure has already gravely damaged the United States at home and around the world. He's abused power of his office and denied the legitimacy of his political opponents. He has subsumed the public interest to the profitability of his business and political interests. He's shown a breathtaking disregard for lives and liberties of Americans. He is a man unworthy of the office he holds. And that's just part of it. So they basically just told the truth. But for the Times to do that is a big deal. And thank you, New York Times, for simply telling the truth. What's going on with the Republican Party, I can't say it's beyond belief. It's become business as usual, but it's still, that makes it no less horrible. So now, in order to do anything they can to keep it unfair, right? Because that's their whole thing. We got to keep this unfair advantage forever. Ted Cruz unveiled a constitutional amendment. Remember they talked about Constitution and original and not changing it? Well, they might need to make a change. They put up a constitutional amendment that the Supreme Court shall be composed of 9 justices, known as the Keep 9 Amendment. Now, what this is about is they say that if the Democrats win the White House and the Senate, the Democrats are going to pack the court because they got to, alter the makeup of the Supreme Court. Sort of like ramming a justice through, 2 weeks before the election just to make sure you keep a majority. Sort of like that, but not quite. The best option I heard, and I'm not sure if I talked about this. I know I posted it online, but I'm not sure if I talked about it, and I wish I knew who to credit with this idea. But I read a piece about hugely, radically expanding the Supreme Court, and the number that this person wrote was 29. Put 29 justices on the court. The reason being, at that point, no one justice makes that big a difference. I think you could even do it with 25. Then if a justice dies or leaves the court for some reason, you put another one in. But in the meantime, that one justice doesn't make as big a difference. When there's only 9 and you have 6 conservative and 3 liberal, you have Roe v. Wade in danger and voting rights getting less power than gun rights, which is where we're headed right now. But imagine if you had, and I loved the notorious RBG. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was fantastic. But imagine if there were 25 justices and she passed away. Still tragic, but not altering the court. So the Republicans are highly afraid of that, because if you were to, balance the court. Their ridiculousness, their quote originality, their desire to go back to the 1950s. And make no mistake, that's a Republican's wet dream, to go back to the 1950s when white males were in charge, white women sat at home. This is how they picture it. White women sat at home, it worked. Black people were subservient, and Latinx people didn't exist. That was their thing. They love that, and they want to go back to that. And Amy Barrett, the originalist, she wants to go back to, I guess, like 1700s or something, not realizing that in the original Constitution, she wouldn't have existed. But what are you going to do? Let's talk about this Amy Barrett handmaid. And when I say that, not an insult, her cult called women handmaids until the TV show, and we found out what handmaids were, and they were like, we probably shouldn't call the women that publicly. Even the porn stars, the porn industry is worried about Amy Barrett. Why? Because she's super religious, and a lot of super religious have that fake morality, and they're worried about their freedom of speech, because their freedom of speech won't count in the same way the religious crazy freedom of speech counts. And who knows what else they'll do, some obscenity, blah, 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 which is actually pretty ironic, because the biggest consumers of porn by any standard, but Pornhub, you can use them. They're the biggest ones online. The biggest consumers of porn are the red states, Utah, Alabama, those places. Because they're repressed. And when you have that fake repression, it has to come out somewhere. So they're oddly sexually repressed, and they love porn. And I'm not anti-porn. I'm cool with porn. I know people in porn. They do what you want to do. It's called freedom. But they're worried that when she comes on the court, trust me, porn ain't at the top of their list. They'll get to it slowly, very slowly. They don't want to really, mess up their own action. And even other judges are aware of it. This, and I am looking for it because it was a federal judge from the Sixth Court of Appeals, Judge Karen Nelson, said that ruling by ruling, many courts are chipping away at votes that ought to be counted. Even she said she's a Sixth Circuit of Appeals justice, and she wrote that they're working on getting rid of votes. Voter suppression is real. Make no mistake, it is real. Here in California, where I live, I talked about it last week. They have these fake voter boxes. They've been collecting ballots. Who knows what's happened to those? Somebody set fire to a legitimate ballot box. There's a bunch of votes that are not going to be counted. And this is being done by Republicans. Republicans are doing it. Even Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I never liked as a politician. I think he was a horrible governor. I think it was an ego trip for a movie star. But even he said the Republicans should not be putting out these fake ballot boxes and so on. But they're doing it. So, it's real. This is why it's important to vote, because as I said, we're playing a basketball game and it's 5 versus 7. It's like the Supreme Court, 3 versus 6. You are going against not just the Republican candidates, but you're also going against the Senate and the courts that are trying to do everything they can, Republican governors, et cetera, everything they can to stop people from voting, because they know the more people vote, the more likely Democrat, progressive, liberal, whatever you want to call it, will win. So please vote. And again, thank you to those whom they're doing everything possible to make difficult to vote. Places like Georgia and Louisiana and parts of Ohio, minority parts of Ohio, where people are waiting in line for hours to vote kudos and thank you to you for doing that. All right. Let's talk about baby hands. Just his utter stupidity. So Trump said that if Biden were president, he would listen to the scientists. It's a Trump rally, and he's talking about he would listen to the scientists and close businesses and blah, blah, blah. To which Biden replied, yes, I would listen to scientists because that's what you should do. They're scientists. They do science. They're smart. And so at another Trump rally with thousands of people not wearing a mask and him not wearing a mask, and he's supposedly had COVID. That's my view on him having COVID. Okay. So he said that Biden would listen to science. It's amazing that that's considered a bad thing. Oh, look at him with his educated people around him, for God's sake. So, yeah, Biden said, yes, I would. Speaking of baby hands, and it's always funny to me how much people hate him. Like, how can you be so clueless? At some point, you'd think you'd have to, and I'm not a, expert on narcissism, and I guess it runs this deep, but you'd think at some point you would look up and say, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm a bit of an asshole. I don't know, like if you're in church and you're looking for money to drop in a plate, which, and people are trolling you for it because apparently Trump was in church, no mask, by the way, and the church full of people sitting right next to each other, no masks, few masks, but not many. But anyway, he's looking for money to drop into the collection plate, and he pulls out some money out of his pocket and he fans it out. I guess they were $20 bills, probably, his strip club money, which was online. They said they compared him to a broke guy at a strip club, counting money. Ain't making it rain. Got to count that money. And, he finally pulls out, I guess, crumbles up and drops in a 20 or a couple of 20s, whatever it was. And just Twitter just destroyed him, talking about this is part of his write-off for his $750 tax bill and how mad he is that the church doesn't have to pay taxes and he gave him money and so on. All just very funny, but also you just got to wonder, like, man, wouldn't you say to yourself, wow, they're trashing me for going to church. Maybe I'm a bit of an asshole. Eric Trump, proving that the leaves don't fall far from the tree, put up a stupid, it's funny when they go after someone on Twitter because they're so bad at it. Like, they really don't understand. Listen, there's people on Twitter out there that have mastered it, and they know how to tweet and what to write and what not to write, and they do things like, read before they post something. So Eric Trump, being a Trump, posted a picture of a mansion and said that, this is Biden's home. He makes $174,000 a year. Seems legit, and it was a big mansion, and Trump's trying to make this point. Now, the truth quickly came out, because, see, people, this is Twitter. This is the internet, okay, stupid? If you post something on the internet, somebody's going to read it, they're going to read the truth, and they're going to get you. And this is what happened. So, yeah, it was Biden's house. It was a big-ass house, and he bought it in 1974 for $185,000 when it was abandoned. He renovated it, did live in it for some time, and sold it in 1996 for like $1.2 million, which in today's dollars really ain't much for a house, especially if you live in California or New York or something. So basically what Twitter said was, yeah, Eric, he made a profit in real estate, something you as a Trump would not understand. it's called owning yourself. The level of stupidity is amazing. 50 Cent is endorsing Donald Trump because 50's going to have to pay more taxes if Biden becomes president. Biden said if he becomes president, that people who make over $400,000 taxes will go up. Now, my first thought, 50, relax, you can afford it. I will tell you, I have had years where I've made over $400,000. I don't do it every year, but I've had years. I could pay a couple of percent more taxes. Don't want to. Nobody wants to. But if I had to, I could. I would survive. Wouldn't lose my Eric Trump. You'd be happy to know I wouldn't lose my multi-billion-dollar mansion that I live in, for $175,000 a year. No, and you know what? My taxes have gone up. My taxes have gone up under Trump. Part of the Trump tax bill, they had this vindictive part against California and New York, places that don't endorse him and places in which real estate is very high. And they reduced our ability to write off our mortgage deductions. So we, in effect, had to pay more taxes. And you know what? I'm okay because I get to live in California. That's the price of living in a bubble. I live in a bubble. I've never denied it. Los Angeles and California is a democratic bubble. We don't have to deal with a lot of the nonsense that a lot of the country has to deal with. Unfortunately, that a lot of the country has to deal with. And beautiful weather and the mountains and the coastline and the this and the that. You got to pay for it. It's simple. You want that, you got to pay. You want to live in New York, you want to live in a city where everything's happening, the action, et cetera, you got to pay for it. It costs money. People living in places like Palm Beach don't have to pay it, whatever. But this is just the way it is. 50 Cent, you can afford it, but it's an interesting choice for you, and by interesting, I mean utterly ridiculous for you to support Trump. But at least you're honest about it and saying it's a personal thing, has nothing to do with being black or the racist policies or anything else. You simply, I don't want to pay no taxes. So it's your choice. This was an interesting one I read. And again, this Republican thing, I sort of get it with the men. I don't get it with the women. But anyway, so I'm trying to see. The Public Religious Research Institute, which I have no idea what the hell that is, did a poll. And 60% of Republicans saying society's too soft. 63% of Republicans say American culture is too feminine. 24% of Democrats say it's too feminine. 33% of independents. Less than half Republicans say that life has changed for the better since the 50s. I told you, the 1950s, that's their dream. So what this article is about is basically Republican men saying that men aren't men anymore. And they show one of the idiots with the Proud Boys. His T-shirt said the Proud Boys have done nothing wrong, and the men today are punished for being men. No, you're not. How weak are you? How soft are you? They talk about being soft and being snowflakes and blah 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 all the name. But honestly, who's really weak? Someone who's afraid of words like diversity, someone who's afraid of minorities, someone who's afraid of gay rights. Like, how are you afraid of that? How are you the tough guy when you're afraid of a level playing field? Because that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of a level playing field. They're afraid of treating everyone with respect. I had an interview last week, and I talked about this. The people who are upset talk about Black Lives Matter and black rights. Like, what if everyone was treated equally and then we just had human rights? They can't even comprehend that. I saw the head. Heads were exploding. Treat everyone equally. Even playing field. Wait a minute. What about our advantage? What about our built-in white privilege? We couldn't get by with equal treatment. That would destroy us. Exactly. So, and the article goes on Republicans and white evangelicals among the few demographics who say the way of life has changed for the worse since 1950s, and the women go for it too. I don't know if these women ever saw how women were treated. You know, you might want to watch a few episodes of Mad Men and say, you know, okay, maybe they want to smoke when they're pregnant again. I don't know. But no, listen, the men are men. Men are fine. You can be a man. You can, I don't know what this manly thing is that they want to do, that they can't do. That's what I don't understand. What can't they do? If you're a white male in America, what can't you do? You can't make racist insults toward minorities? Well, you can, but you got to risk the ass whipping or getting fired for being stupid online or whatever it is you want to do. You know, you want to be one of the Proud Boys. Well, don't get upset when the gay guys take over your Proud Boys hashtag. Or you can just be utterly stupid like these two soldiers in the Michigan National Guard posted a message to liberals on TikTok. See, because that's real men, badasses. We on TikTok, motherfucker. We badass. We on TikTok. The two National Guardsmen on camera in uniform holding assault rifles saying liberals are snowflakes, crybabies, and pointing to some guy saying, is that guy drinking unicorn semen? That's their big manly thing. That's the kind of thing that real men aren't allowed to do. Say some guy's drinking unicorn semen. Yeah, so unit leadership is aware of the video. Disciplinary action is being taken because, see, stupid, when you put it on TikTok, you know, that's the manly, it's where you show your manhood. You fucking TikTok, I will TikTok your ass. When you put it on TikTok, that's the internet. And that means everyone can see it. And there's your face, and they know who you are. So, real men, TikTok, you son bitch. I'll show you. In New Zealand, you have to look this up. There's a reporter. Her name is Tova O'Brien. It's going viral. She was interviewing one of their idiots. They do have as well as New Zealand handled the coronavirus. They do have the idiots. So it's one of these, you know, COVID deniers. He was a politician. His career's over though. He lost anti-mask, anti-lockdown, all of that. So right away she's like, do you have any regrets? Because he got destroyed in the election. And then he starts talking about he enjoyed the opportunity to run, and she stops him. Do you want another crack at answering that? Because I asked you if you have any regrets. So basically she held him. Can we hire this woman to moderate our debates? And she said to him, you knew exactly what you were doing. You're whipping up fear and hysteria in vulnerable communities. And when he tried to talk about it, you know, the coronavirus is just a flu, blah, blah, blah. She just stopped him. No, I don't want to hear any of that rubbish. Can we get her? Can we get this woman to come to the United States and moderate our debates? Can you imagine just stopping that? Stop. I don't even want to hear it. That's what a reporter does. That is what we miss. That is what we... What else is going on? All right, that's enough of all of that. In baseball, the World Series, it's Tuesday, so the World Series starts tonight. And I have to say that it's been fun. If you haven't been watching baseball, if you're not a baseball fan, tune in. I'm telling you, the playoffs were absolutely fun to watch. I hate to. I'm going to come back. I'm going to find something else positive, but I did want to mention this story because this is an example of. I have a friend who works in the legal system, and I love what she does. She helps people who are unjustly in jail, serving these long sentences for minor crimes or minor, back when marijuana was illegal and you're still in jail 20 years later. Whatever. This man, of course, a black man in Louisiana, was serving a life sentence because he stole some hedge clippers back in 1997. And, you had the 3 strikes and the this and that. And they finally granted him in parole. But he's been in jail for 23 years. He's 63 years old. So, he's got some life left. And he was in jail in Angola in Louisiana, which is one of the worst prisons in the world. He was a drug addict, and he committed a lot of petty crimes, and they put him away for life rather than, putting him in rehab or anything else. See, this is what changing our legal system's about. It's not about letting people free, but this is a guy who probably should have went to rehab and, maybe go to jail, maybe put into some sort of supervised program. 24 years in Angola? No. You know how much money was wasted doing that to this poor guy? A life wasted, etc. I'm not saying he's a good guy or he's innocent or whatever. I don't know. That's ridiculous. We need to do something with our justice system because Richard Pryor told a joke 50 years ago. Yeah, it's a justice system. Just us. I also read an interesting article about hockey, getting back to sports, hockey trying to be open to black players. There's black hockey players. I have a friend, Ryan Reeves, amazing guy, amazing athlete, plays for Las Vegas Golden Knights. He's one of them, and there's more and more. And I joked with him. That's how I met him. I joked, it's about 8 years ago or whatever, I met him, joking with him about doing jokes at the show about black hockey players, and he came up and he was one, and I'm glad he was laughing because he's like an enforcer, whip-ass kind of hockey player, the kind of guy that just knocks the shit out of people. So fortunately he laughed as opposed to knocking the shit out of me. But hockey has a huge race problem, only surpassed by NASCAR with the open racism at the arenas, at the games. And hockey claims they're going to do something about it, and the players are like, not so much so far. But hopefully that will change. And the last thing, you know what? As long as we're having fun, this is fun. Watching these Republicans dance, and I mean dance. I'm talking Dancing with the Stars dance, to deny their complicity, to pretend they're not in bed with Donald Trump. So the latest one, Ben Sasse from Nebraska, suddenly he's anti-Trump. Now, mind you, he has voted for everything Trump, all these policies, whether it be destroy the environment, deregulate banking and other industries, the tax cuts for the rich, et cetera, et cetera. He's voted for everything Trump has said, supported Trump's Supreme Court picks, et cetera, et cetera. But suddenly he's like, Trump mishandled the coronavirus pandemic, curries favors with dictators, mistreats women, flirts with white supremacists, and mocks evangelicals. Really, Tom? Ben? Really, Ben? When did you pick up on that? In the last 2 weeks, perhaps? Perhaps your hopes, presidential hopes in the future? Yeah, you're full of shit, Ben. And there's been a few more, even McConnell. Even McConnell distanced himself from Trump, saying that we should be wearing masks. Senator John Cornyn, a Republican in Texas, who's in a re-election battle, suddenly says that he disagrees with Trump on spending and trade, and he disagrees with Trump on building the wall. Can you imagine that? A Republican, I told you I'd come back to comedy, a Republican senator from Texas suddenly saying he didn't agree with that whole build the wall bullshit. So yeah, they're rats leaving a sinking ship. Is the ship sinking? I don't know. They had that poll Biden's ahead by 17 points, but now they're saying that Trump's making a comeback in Florida and Georgia and anywhere else they can suppress voting. So I'm telling you, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to go down to the wire. I'm hoping Biden should win. Biden will probably win the popular vote. It does not mean he will be in the White House, but let's hope. Who's paying attention? As always, you are. Again, Saturday night with MarcusMiller.com. The music's been amazing. Gregory Porter's show is great. War. We've got a smooth jazz show with some smooth jazz stars like Jonathan Butler and Kirk Whalum and Keiko Matsui and Peter White. They're all doing a show together. There's going to be a Halloween show. There's going to be holiday shows. This is great. This is great. If you do any of the jazz cruises or if you just like jazz, these shows have been fantastic. Production level, excellent. And I'm so happy to host them and be a part of them. I'm traveling this week. This weekend, I will be at Hilarities, one of my favorite clubs. It's in downtown Cleveland. Pickwick and Frolic is the name of the place.